Welcome, everyone, to another evening here at LFC Transfer Room. I'm still asking myself what the hell just happened today. I'm pretty sure the guys are asking themselves too. Um, so yeah, welcome. Make sure to like, subscribe, and of course leave your comments and get in. Try and get involved into the conversation. We'd love to have you and have a talk with you all. And yeah, always look on the bright side of life. That's something I'll have to keep reminding myself for the next few months. I guess I assume everyone's now heard the news, and that's why you're probably here. Jurgen Klopp will leave Liverpool at the end of the season. That's been quite the shock, I think, for everyone. I remember I was at work and I was just checking my phone as someone does at work, and then I see the video, on top of my feed, and I'm thinking, okay, I hear Jurgen speaking, and it's about him leaving, but I was thinking, first of all, it could be like some sort of a joke, with the AI mimicking the voice and anything like that. But no, it is true, and we are going to discuss Jurgen Klopp leaving tonight. So, yeah, without me rambling for too much going forward, I'll just ask Willem, how are you feeling?
Honestly, just devastated, mate. I've had the same as you, where I was at work, and I'm still in the training part as well of like a new function that I've been picking up now, and like I've literally had to keep a poker face of this as if nothing was happening this entire time, which was just honestly awful. And at lunchtime, at one point, when people just saw me kind of sat out, just being sad by myself and having a cigarette, they were like, "I was like, has something happened to a relative? Has someone died?" And I went, "No, Jurgen's gone." Um, that was it. And yeah, that's basically. I know no one understood it because no one watches football or anything where I work, so it doesn't make it any good. But yeah, I'm just still processing it. I'm kind of the same as you. I'm also kind of just hoping that I'm getting pinched and it's waking up from like a nightmare day. But yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was fairly similar for me too, in the sense that I was just sitting at my computer, and then for half an hour I was just unable to move. I had to make sure that it's actually real, and it was odd, yeah, to say the least. Good to see that not everyone's grieving like we do, though. So good for you, Haler. So good to be able to uh, go on with your day. But yeah, it was a bit of a shock. Race, what about you?
Well, for me here in America, it was me waking up to the news. I slept in, and all of a sudden, I get on my phone, and my friends are texting me. We're also, football fans. It was one of my best friends. He's a Tottenham fan, and he sent me. He's like, "Screw you, man! Finally, you're gonna have to deal with the struggle that we've dealt with. Just the uncertainty of not having a great manager. Yeah, it was surprising, tough to take in the news. I had this for another team that I follow here. We had a similar situation where one of our storied coaches and managers left our team unexpectedly, and it was such a devastating loss because we didn't know what the future would hold because he had built such a great program. And sure enough, a few years later, now that said team is now bottom of the league in what they compete in. So it's absolutely devastating, and that's just kind of a similarity that I had personally. But yeah, I mean, we all kind of knew that his years were numbered, given the recent contract moves and just the extensions, but not really signing on too long of an extension. Um, it's it's definitely a shock that it comes in the middle of the season, and it's happening this season too. But I think that at least one thing, and listening to his press comments and what he had to say, he made it very clear that he wanted to give them a heads up so that they could plan for the future because he has so much respect for the club, which we can all certainly appreciate. And also just kind of I'm just kind of wondering, the way that his tenure has gone, of course, building us up, winning the Champions League, winning the Premier League, having the dip in the COVID season, and then coming right back with the quadruple season, and then last year just not performing well, and this year, we're back at the top again. It's just kind of been up and down, but it seems like this season was the ones that kind of revitalized him. And I think he said over the summer that, or recently, that that he's rejuvenated and he's kind of back to his old self or whatnot. But I guess maybe he didn't feel that way, and listening to him talk, it was kind of apparent that he thought himself he wouldn't be able to be at the top of his game as a manager, and that's kind of why he wants to leave, because he doesn't want to be in a situation where he's kind of being pushed out the door, or he's kind of overextending his stay with the club. Even though us as fans, we can't see that happening because he's been so great for us, and we're seeing this season, even after a down year, he's brought us back up. And so it's hard to imagine that Klopp himself thinks that he can't, he's not going to perform the best, or he's not going to get the most out of a team. So I think that's the part that I'm kind of struggling to deal with, is that he thinks himself is not great. But of course, we're not him. We don't see all the day-to-day stuff. So yeah, it's just devastating. It's a day for our rivals to cheer and celebrate about, because regardless of the team that we have and who we bring in, it's really an unknown as to if we could continue the success on, because we don't know what the future holds. We don't know how some players might feel about this, if they'll start to explore their options. I think that's obviously more discussions down the road for that. And we haven't even heard from the players yet what they think. I'm sure we'll get, as we get through these games, but we'll hear their reaction and whatnot. Klopp said that he notified the team, or the ownership, in November that he was going to leave. And I can't imagine that hasn't trickled down a little bit. So some of the players maybe knew that he was going to leave, maybe unexpectedly or soon. And he also talked about too in his conference that, he has such a strong bond with the players that the reaction necessarily wasn't, that maybe that shocking, or, they know what Klopp's about. They knew that maybe his time would, come to an end sooner rather than later. So, again, that's just part of the culture and what he's built with Liverpool, and continued on that success. So, it's certainly, it's a sad day. I think, down the road, we'll have our toast to him, our celebrations, our us honoring him, and, as we will throughout the season. But today, it's just having to accept the reality that Klopp, won't be leading us out of the tunnel, come next season.
So I think one of the things that I've been asking myself, when I saw the video, was at first I believed maybe he has, maybe there's a health problem, maybe someone in the family, maybe just it seemed so sudden and out of nowhere, and I couldn't believe it. But indeed, as Muse I think said earlier, Jurgen does look, in the video especially, it looks tired. He said he's tired. He said he needs a break. So obviously, I know he said it in the video, just don't, to Liverpool fans, accept my decision. And I don't think there's any Liverpool fan who's not going to accept that. It's going to be upset at him. I think what he's done for us, for me, it was like, I started to support Liverpool in 2008, 2009. Yeah, I'm a bit younger, so I don't know how old are you guys, but I started to support Liverpool in 2008, 2009, and then obviously for me, supporting Liverpool for what, 15 years, and Klopp's been here for like almost half of it. So yeah, it is quite a big blow, and it's hard to imagine going forward without him. But that's what we'll have to do, I guess. And one thing that I wanted to discuss with you, and I was just planning this so that maybe it won't be such a depressing stream. Maybe I was thinking of asking you your favorite memories for the time you're going to spend here up until now. And I am going to go first because I think you're going to need a few minutes to browse through everything. For me, and I'm encouraging everyone to drop yours in the comments, if you feel like it. For me, it was interesting when Jurgen signed for us in 2015. It was one thing that immediately kind of, the moment I thought, this is going well, was when we beat Chelsea at the Stamford Bridge in October 2015. I remember it was Coutinho and Benteke. That's quite the name for you, to score. And I remember us winning 3-1, at the Stamford Bridge. Chelsea were champions, Mourinho on the bench for them. I think that was the moment I felt, yeah, even if this guy's here only for like a few months, this is a good, this team's going into the right direction. And maybe that's, hindsight now to say I knew it back then, but it was just such an important win. And I think it was like pretty much the first big win in his time here. So I am going to go with that. I know that's a bit of an outlandish choice, but I'll leave you guys to maybe come in and say yours. Willem, what do you think?
I mean, it might be considered as a bit of a cop out, but for me, it's still like modernly probably my favorite 2 hours of my life I have had. Well, not maybe in general as the whole thing, but one of the best 2 hours I've ever had in my life is obviously the 4-0 against Barca, and just the way how that whole week went. We obviously just scraped a result. Salah went off with a concussion. City the next day get a last-minute winner against Leicester. It looks like we're going to be short-handed again. We've got a 3-0 deficit against Barcelona, with the greatest player of all time playing against us, who had literally done what he did to every team in that first leg, which is, Barca, we're just 1-0, blah, blah. And then Messi went, no, I'm going to score 2 bangers and it's going to be over. At least that's what we thought. And just the way he epitomized the whole team. And, it's the same as with his interview today where he goes, I'm just a normal man. I'm nothing special. But the fact that he was so normal is what made him special. And the way he always he plays before the game of saying, look, any other team, and we haven't got a chance, but because it's you guys, we've got a chance. It just sticks to me. That's just going to stick to me with me forever. And yeah, like I said, it was just one of the greatest nights I've probably just ever. And I can't thank him enough for it. I'm sorry, I'm still kind of really depressed about it. So it's going to seem like I've just had a relative die, but I'm just reminiscing.
Yeah, I think we can definitely understand. So don't feel too bad about it. Yeah, I think the 4-0 was indeed. How am I going to find ways to describe it? It was indeed special because, it was like you said, that week, and it got us thinking that another great season, 90-something points in the league, and going so well into the Champions League up until that point, and we're going to not win anything major again. But, in the end, he got us through somehow. And without Salah, without Firmino. Race, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, my support of Liverpool really began in the summer of 2015. I was kind of late to the party. Of course, in America we have all our other sports, so soccer, football, as you guys call it, didn't really appeal to me until a little later. So we had that season. Brendan Rodgers was still the manager for a couple months and then got sacked. So in my Liverpool tenure, it's only been Klopp, really. I mean, that's all I've known. I've been super fortunate to, that's my only memories of Liverpool, really. But it was that season. It was in the Europa League when we came back against Dortmund in the quarterfinal leg. I think we were down 3-1 at home to them, and we needed to score 3 goals. I think it was Origi, Coutinho, Sacco, and Lovren. And it was that Lovren, the last minute one, that obviously put us through to the next round. And I just remember myself just thinking, my first season really watching football as a whole, and just seeing that atmosphere, us coming back in that game, the fight that we showed, and it's just something it was a really good introduction to the game for me personally, and to have Klopp be the one behind it, the one leading the team out, and play a big part in that. It just really kind of spoke to me like, wow, we've got a damn good manager here. We got something special. I mean, this guy is an incredible comeback. little did I know that we'd have an even more incredible comeback a few years later in the Champions League against Barcelona. But that moment really sticks out to me because that was like my first moment of really seeing something truly special on the pitch of my team just making an incredible comeback. And little did I know that again it was going to be one of many incredible performances from our side. And so it's always, the first impressions always make a difference. And of course, his opening press conference of changing, of turning doubters to believers. I mean, that's always a comment that sticks in our heads. And he is that I mean, to a T, that is probably what he has done with this club. I mean, there are so many great moments. I'm going to continue to reminisce and think of all those good times. But yeah, that one definitely sticks out to me.
So what's interesting about the Barca comeback, or the one thing that kind of came to my mind when I was thinking about it, we did have some amazing nights with Jurgen at Anfield, some amazing European nights, especially in the Champions League, and that kind of made me realize that Jurgen won't be here for another Champions League match. So if you cherished the Champions League nights at Anfield with Jurgen on the bench, then yeah, it's probably it's probably a tough one to take in, I guess. But yeah, life goes on. One thing that I wanted to ask you guys, and something that kind of made me think about it a bit differently, was the fact that he said something about him discussing with the board and the staff, the people around him, discussing the signings of next summer, and him thinking that I just don't know if I'm going to be here next summer. So what was interesting was him mentioning it in that context. So it kind of made me think if FSG and maybe their lack of backing Jurgen in a lot of important times came into play a bit. So I don't know about you. Obviously, Jurgen said he's tired, and that's it, and we're gonna take his word for it. But at the same time, do you think that maybe if FSG backed him more during his time here, maybe he would have thought differently by now?
No, actually, I don't. And first, I am someone who gets on FSG's back a lot. So don't get me wrong. I'm normally more against FSG than I am pro FSG. But I think just what he said in his interview is the truth. I think if you look at, if we all look at last year and last season, the man looked drained. He looked like empty. He didn't want to, there were just some press conferences where, and it was to the point where even if someone, not like James Pearce, but James Pearce just asked questions to get under people's skin, it's just annoying. But actual people asking actual questions were even getting an annoyed reaction out of him. And I think what he said in today's interview of last year they wouldn't sack me, and in my heart I could never have left the club in the state it was that way. I think that is his honest reaction, and I think even he is surprised probably by how well part of the rebuild's already gone this summer and the position that we're already in. Because I think, let's be honest, after last season, I don't think any of us expected to be challenging on all four fronts and being, still technically 5 points clear of the table, clear at top of the table right now. And I think it is more of the same he had it with Dortmund and the same he had with Mainz after just these long periods that he's there, because he's stayed a minimum of 7 years at every club he's been at. And the one thing that I do truly believe is that it looks very glamorous to be a Liverpool manager, but behind the scenes, it's going through on a daily basis. And I just do think it is to a point where he is getting to the point where he's like, look, I've got to take care of myself. I don't know how much more of this I can keep taking for this long a period. It's as well, we're at the upper echelon because of the Premier League having so much over the last years as well. This is constantly being at the peak and at the top echelon of football. and it does take a toll. So there are only so many few managers who can for a full 20 years and keep going. And I don't think necessarily Klopp was ever going to stay 20 years with us, but I think none of us would have expected him to have gone by season. I realistically 26 is probably it, and then after that, we want to see the rebuild through. But I think the position we're in already, I think that's kind of what forced his hand on it, and really has decided for him to take the break.
Yeah, for me, what's interesting is the fact that he announced it now. It almost feels like maybe he wanted to leave last season, but just didn't feel like leaving the club at that point. He just kind of wanted to start the rebuild, get the midfield rebuild out of the way, get some options up forward. And now realistically, for anyone who comes in the summer to replace him, realistically, he probably needs 2-3 more players, and that's pretty much a complete side. Maybe depending on what you want to play, obviously, but that's another story. So yeah, Race, do you think maybe the lack of backing in some moments by FSG had something to do with Jurgen coming to this decision now?
I don't think too much. Maybe I think maybe a part of him definitely feels that way. I think it's a natural to just kind of how we've done business, but we've always gotten good enough players that have obviously developed well and become great for us. But I think yeah, like another thing you said in the conference was how he's been doing 6 press conferences a week for basically not all 9 years, and he's getting worn down, and that's definitely a sentiment that you can relate to. And I think it's as you said, he didn't want to leave the club in a bad place, and he again announcing this decision now shows the respect that he has for the club, and gives them ample time to prepare for replacement. It's he certainly wants to, he's made the club a better place than when he came into it. He's just, yeah, I guess it was just his time to feel. He's going to take some years off. Maybe he'll get back into managing somewhere else. He said, of course, he won't come back to England. Out of respect, for Liverpool. He who knows if he'll manage somewhere else again. But I think it's definitely just, I just can't, I'm just trying to process. I just can't believe that, he's leaving already. And, from the player side, I don't think that there will be any sort of like, moves like any player will want out. Like, there's no reason to leave Liverpool just because Klopp's leaving. Like, we still have a strong foundation in place. Like, whoever you bring in, I know all the assistants are leaving too, which I also found a little bit surprising, but kind of makes sense given if they want to pursue their own managerial careers and want to build something themselves rather than kind of ride the coattails of what Klopp has built here. Specifically with Pep Linders, like for him, like if he takes over and we have success, like, well, we can just say, oh well, he took over for Klopp and Klopp already built everything. He can go somewhere else and establish his own thing, because he had a short stint as a manager somewhere and it didn't work out. So I'm sure he wants to prove himself a little bit there. But it's it's we're definitely going to be diving into a world of uncertainty, and I'm sure we'll talk about replacements and who we should take. And Xabi Alonso is the hot name, is who I think we all kind of are looking at right now. I've yet to see anyone else recommend someone else to take over. But it's there's a lot of things in the modern game just with transfer fees and whatnot. Of course, you have to spend so much money these days, and when you have owners that aren't the most willing to spend, that can certainly be frustrating and add to the toll that you've been taking already being a manager at a high level club for this long. I mean, I don't think people maybe get that. It's different if you're managing maybe some mid-table team, or you don't have the expectations each year that, okay, we want to win the league. We want to win basically every single trophy possible that each competition, because we have the squad. I mean, that's a lot of pressure to have every year. And some people can handle it and some people can't. I'm not saying Klopp can't handle it. Obviously, he's been here for a long time, but he's just said that, okay, I think I've done everything I can. I don't see how I can get even more out of myself to get this team at the right level.
So, very interesting of you to mention replacements because that's what I was planning to discuss next. I will tell you the truth. When I saw the video and I saw Jurgen was leaving, somewhere in the next 10 minutes, my mind was Xabi Alonso or no one else. I just would be disappointed if it's anyone else but Xabi Alonso. And I know the chat has been discussing it here, and we have quite a few comments mentioning who we would take um, as a successor for Klopp. Now, for me, obviously, as I said, Xabi Alonso is the one. I said it at the beginning of the season with Dortmund. With Leverkusen. I was thinking of Dortmund apparently. I saw the way he was playing even last season. Before this one in the Bundesliga. The way he plays, the kind of football he plays, just seems like exactly it's tailor made for what Liverpool want to play. So I just feel like it's Xabi Alonso would be, probably the best, in my opinion, would be the best manager to come in after Jurgen. As I've said in the chat and also what I've seen online on Twitter, other names that have been mentioned are Roberto De Zerbi from Brighton, obviously, Roberto Amorim from Sporting as well. I think Haler, judging by the name, it looks Portuguese. Maybe you know more a bit about Roberto Amorim. But yeah, I'll leave it to you, Willem. What do you think, and who do you think? Who would you like to be the next Liverpool manager?
I mean, I really don't want to think about it, to be fair, but I have been I have kind of listed it down to 3. Whereas I'm not going to lie, though, out of the 3, I know one is not realistic, but I feel like that these are the only 3 people who could do the job. One of them obviously being Xabi Alonso. I would take De Zerbi purely because De Zerbi has a philosophy, he has a style of play, he has everything coming in. It's something that we can work with. And the other one, which is my unrealistic one, but it's the only other one that I would take, is Zinedine Zidane, who is available still. So why not? I don't think it's going to happen. I doubt it. He has no relation to us. There is nothing that's going to. He has no relation to England. He can't speak the language. So I don't think at any point we will be seeing Zidane coming nearby to us. But yeah, they're the only 3 where I'm looking at it, where I'm like, yeah, look, that's it. I'm not doing anything else. And yeah, but I mean, I've heard shouts of Nagelsmann. I don't want Nagelsmann anywhere near the club. I'm sorry, but like he's just not good enough in my opinion. I don't really see the response into it. Yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with it. And for the comment, by the way, of saying we're all Wednesday, aren't we? That's my mate Declan, who also lives here in Spain. And so I thought I'd just give him a shout out there. Go on deck. And yeah, those are my 3 options.
All right. Well, to be honest, I do have an unpopular opinion about Zidane. I don't exactly know how I could possibly rate him. I mean, I know obviously what he did at Madrid, winning 3 Champions Leagues in a row. That's massive. But at the same time, it kind of seemed like, he had an amazing team. He had, one of the best trios in world football, probably the best in form, at least at some moment. So yeah, I don't know. It's my unpopular opinion that maybe Zidane is not as big of a coach or as a manager, sorry, as people necessarily think he is. But that's, he'll probably go in another club and win 3 in a row again, and just I'll look stupid on stream live. But yeah, sorry, Haler. I don't know why I thought it was Portuguese. Yeah, sorry. But moving forward, Race, I'm not going to ask you about a coach or for a manager. Sorry, I don't know why I keep saying coach. I would ask you though. I know you said Xabi Alonso, but what other names do you think would be okay?
It's tough. I mean, it's because for me, I want to bring in a manager that's, not someone that's been recycled and been through multiple clubs. I don't want someone who's had a history of being sacked previously. Because this is ideally they're going to bring in a manager that's gonna, it's there long term. It's not like a short term fix or in a desperate need of results. Like we've won everything. We don't need to, hire a win now manager, if you will. Someone like I just think back like when Tottenham hired Jose, like that was kind of like a okay, so we need results like right now. We need to get the most out of this team, whatever. But we can take a step back maybe a little bit and hire someone that has the long term vision. And of course, get Xavi Alonso is the I think the ideal fit. If that would be if that's who we would pursue, it'd be the dream hire if there is one. If we can even it's just it's an impossible task to replace Klopp and succeed Klopp. You mentioned De Zerbi. I think just it'd be tough to go from the style of play that Klopp has to De Zerbi. I think that'd just be an extreme type of difference that we'd experience. A couple years ago, I think Steven Gerrard when he was at Villa, was looking good, and then that was a possible successor. But obviously, he's kind of tailed off and disappeared, to Saudi Arabia, so that's not really an option anymore. I would have maybe thought of Thomas Frank from Brentford too. I've liked what they've done, but they're not having a great season this year. And I know they haven't had Tony this year, but they're kind of down on the table and not playing as well as they should have. So that's kind of a nervous one for me. Nagelsmann too. He was kind of the hot shot, name up and comer. Got the opportunity and just didn't really do anything with it. And so it's just like that doesn't excite me too. It's really hard for me to say anyone other than Xabi Alonso. It would be interesting that if Leverkusen were going to win the Bundesliga this year, we would then hire the last two managers from the Bundesliga that won it that weren't from Bayern. Of course, Dortmund are the last team to win it when Klopp was their manager, and then we would take away the next manager, Alonso from Leverkusen. And he did reach the Europa League final last year, so showing some success in Europe. I just think I think we would be stupid to look at anyone else. Well, don't be naive in your search and only focusing on one manager because you're never guaranteed to get him. But I think you put all your chips in, as many as you can, for Xabi Alonso. And then if it'd be hard to turn us down because we are one of the biggest clubs in the world, even winning a league, with Leverkusen. It'd be so hard to turn us down. He played for us. Of course, the Champions League triumph. It really is. We have we have that big of a pull. So whichever if another name emerges over the next few months that's looking to move on, I mean, we are the prime option for any manager if they're willing to come and manage for us.
I wanted to say it was the funniest thing ever. Welcome, Hassan. Cheers up, mate. And then Hassan just lighting up a cigarette and just looks staying like this in front of the cameras. Probably not that cheerful necessarily, but yeah, Hassan, welcome on the stream. I wanted to ask you and just jump right in and tell us your opinion on who do you think and who would you like as the next Liverpool manager. The names that we've been mentioning were Xabi Alonso, De Zerbi, even Zidane. We won't judge. What do you think?
Yeah, sorry guys. Willem knows my problems on Friday night because
it's fine, mate. It's
him.
fine. You're here. It's all that matters.
So, but as you know, it's a big shock for everybody, and it was all of a sudden, and it was like a day. We all know it will come one day, but it cannot prepare us for such kind of a news. But it has happened. Maybe Klopp was really made a decision. So and he wanted to go because we are in all competition. He wanted the fans to get behind us and fully and push us through all the trophies available. So maybe that's why he would have been carrying this weight. It's a huge weight, so he wanted to get it off his chest and focus on the job. And for the candidates, my dream is Chabi because uh, we all loved him when he was here. Uh, and we when he went, it was the only thing I really loved Rafa, but the way he treated Alonso was a big disappointment for me. Uh, and after that, we all know we went through hell until Klopp came. So I think Xavi, because as you guys have seen Mourinho's interview, he compared himself with him because he was a player and he was a player, and he admitted he was a much better player than him. Then their fathers were managers, and Xavi has been managed by really top, all the world class managers, and the job he's doing is exceptional. As we all know, Bundesliga is one horse race, and to give them a hard time is not an easy job. And the way his team plays, and the never die out attitude, it's all we wants. uh, but let's see. My pick is Chabi, obviously.
Yeah, that's quite the popular pick, and apparently not everyone agrees necessarily. But mm I think obviously it's not. There's no perfect pick. Like there's no guarantee that Xabi Alonso would work on any other manager in the world would work. I just think that it's promising what we've seen from Xabi Alonso. Obviously, he hasn't necessarily won anything, but I don't think that you can judge him necessarily in 2 years of a managerial career on that. I think what he's doing with Leverkusen is impressive. Sorry, and yeah, that's at least my opinion. Now, I've seen mentions of Steven Gerrard in the chat. I do not know how you guys feel about that. Me personally, I would never. Sorry, Stevie, but it's just the way it is at the moment. I just don't see Steven Gerrard being how do I say this? Maybe not the best fit. Let's just leave it at that. So yeah. Going forward, I saved a comment from Jay Muse from I think half hour earlier. I have seen this on social media, and I've seen this on people asking about it. And will this play a part in us challenging for some trophies this season? Now, this is an interesting one because when I first saw this, I was thinking, on one hand, yeah, I guess players will give everything they got because at the end of the day, Jurgen is going to leave in just a few months, and obviously you want to give everything for your manager, and there's such a special bond between them. But at the same time, does this maybe add just that additional pressure on it? Willem, what do you think?
I don't think it's gonna necessarily hinder the way we're going in. I mean, like the players will have known now for. I mean, they said he told them last. I can imagine they may have known it a bit a bit before that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm more at the point now where I'm like, look, if I don't see any player in these next 4 months, or if I see a certain player not give 200% to try and go and win for everything, then he can leave along with Jurgen, and that's it. Because that's all I'm asking for at this point. I'm not asking for us to win everything because it's unrealistic. It's just not going to happen. We're going in right now. We're in contention for 4 trophies, and it's never happened in the history of mankind that you win all 4 of them. But it's just I'd expect them to go even higher, and just hope that we can win as much to give them the best send off possible. And that's really it. And just on a note again, by the way, don't take Declan seriously because he's just being trolled and calling out Roy Hodgson and Steven Gerrard as a replacement for us. But no way, mate. I mean, we'll take Danny Rowe at this point if we're going to go that way. We're going to take your manager.
Yeah, the Roy Hodgson shout was kind of obvious, but yeah. Race, what do you think about us challenging for the trophies?
Yeah, you like to think that the players are gonna, if they aren't already playing hard, play even harder for Klopp to send them out on a high note and let them right off into the sunset. It certainly helps that we're still in all four of our competitions. Because there'd be nothing better than the final day of the season, or at least in the league, to hoist that trophy at Anfield and having Jurgen, celebrate with the crowd. I mean, that would be an absolute storybook ending. Because I feel, I don't know about you guys feel, but winning the title, the Premier League, during the COVID season, during lockdown, like that took a lot of sting out of it. And I think the one thing that we're missing in this Klopp era is a Premier League trophy in front of our fans, in front of the supporters. So I think that's the one thing that we're missing from him. And to have that, I would then feel so much more, fulfilled during Klopp's tenure. But yeah, I don't, they're professionals. They're going to kick on. Klopp said today, like they're all about business. They know what's the deal is. That's just what he's built there. That's the type of players that he's brought in. They've got a job to do, so they know, regardless of whatever happens, what's happening with Klopp, that everything will be right. Klopp's fully committed himself to this season. It kind of maybe explains a little bit, why we weren't active in this window, because signing a player, not knowing that Klopp, or knowing that Klopp won't be there long term, is kind of a weird thing to do. It's kind of it'd be a little unnerving as a player, but they've got the squad now. Everything is just kind of in the stretch run, the last stance, if you will. That's really what we're kind of going for here. And as long as we can win, pick up a couple trophies, hopefully, one of them's the league. It'd be poetic to, if he'd win the Europa League at the end of the season, because that was, of course, the first final that he made with Liverpool. And I guess it's the one trophy, albeit, it's the Europa League, but it's the one trophy that he hasn't won yet. That would just be a real storybook ending. So, it's all there. It's all in place. We're playing well. I hope, at some point we'll flip this, this disappointment that we're feeling, into some sort of happiness down the road. And if we can really send them out on a high note, that'll definitely make us feel better going forward.
Yeah, I think. I think in the moment we heard that he was leaving, I think everyone just started to think about us challenging for the big trophies at the end of the season, and yeah, it would be the perfect sending off for him to maybe win another major trophy. Obviously, the Prem is the dream, but it is going to be tougher than pretty much anything else, especially as we are still in all four competitions as of right now. Hassan, what do you think about it? What do you think this has a positive effect, a negative one, or maybe just not at all on the players and how we're going to challenge?
It will have effect on the players. I hopefully it's a positive one. Uh, we have a new team, almost new players coming in, so they must now impress the upcoming manager as well. So the old guard, the old players must take them along. They have the experience of winning things, and hopefully we can send him on a really high note. Now we are in the Carabao final. We must win it. The only trophy maybe we can say maybe FA Cup. Okay, but as Ray said, Premier League and Europa will be a really nice send off for him.
Yep, I do agree. The Europa League would be quite the one to finish the set, basically to complete the set. Sorry. Okay, so we've discussed Jurgen for about 45 minutes. I think I am going to try and move on and maybe think about what's coming in the next few days. Sorry. We've seen that Trent and Szobozlai are now back in training, obviously providing us with some extra players for the next 2 weeks, which are going to be pretty important going forward. Obviously, we have Norwich at the weekend. We now have Robo back, if I'm not mistaken, or at least in the squad. And afterwards there's going to be like 3 days, and then Chelsea, and then 3 days, and then Arsenal. So quite the time coming forward for us. We're going to see how we navigate that. Willem, what do you think? Who would you play against Norwich, and who would you rest? And how would maybe what do you think about the results they're going to we are going to end with?
Honestly, I'd play all the kids on Sunday. Sorry, not Saturday. So, but I'd rest everyone that we need for next week against Chelsea and Arsenal, and just I think in these kind of games where we're at home, it's at Anfield, it's against Norwich, a championship team. Like, not saying that I'm going to underestimate a championship team, but we're Liverpool Football Club. We've got all the talent in the world, even from our youngsters coming in. Our youngsters should be able to get through this, and I think they will, and that should give us the best opportunity to get through as well for next week. I'd much rather do it the way of that. I'd much rather maybe just to get a bit of match rhythm into them, maybe sub on Szobozlai and Trent at the latter bit of Sunday's game, just to get a bit of rhythm into them and to have them ready for next week. And honestly, I just want to. Right now, the mood I'm going in is just going. Let's have everyone. Let's just go at it, have them, destroy them, and just go for it. Because we've got. All right, Jurgen's going to leave. It's going to be sad. We don't like it. We don't like any of it. But we might as well just go and smash everyone in the meantime. So that's what I'm keeping at.
Yeah, obviously, I think the attitude is pretty prevalent, among us Liverpool fans at the moment. I think there's a lot of confidence, and especially after last season, you would have, I wouldn't have thought we'd be in this position come January, but it just shows you what a great manager Jurgen is. And again, recruitment has been maybe better than people gave it credit for at the beginning of or at the end of the summer. Sorry. Race, what do you think about the match at the weekend? Who would you play? And maybe a bit of an interesting question for you. Would you keep Gomez at left back even if Robbo is fit for Chelsea and Arsenal?
I definitely give Robbo a start and get him back into the game. He's been out for so long. I think this would be a good spot for him to go. It's against Norwich. It's kind of a low pressure environment. He'd be the leader out there. Maybe he's the captain for a really young side that'll be out there. So I think it's the perfect opportunity for him to get in there. For the other guys coming back from injury, I think, yeah, I agree with Willem. Just kind of get him some minutes. Hopefully the game allows you can sub him on late and get some minutes, or if you need to get a goal, you can obviously do that too. But it'll mostly be a youthful side, as we are accustomed to in these early rounds of the FA Cup, especially against the championship side. It's definitely we had two games in a span of a few days this past week, including a semifinal, in the cup. So a more intense game. So giving them the weekend off here. I think our next game is then Wednesday, is it, against Chelsea? So give them kind of the week off there, and get ready for that big game there as well. So mostly useful side. Joe Gomez specifically, I mean, I wouldn't have him as left back. I'd have Robertson there.
All right, that was one of the topics that I wanted to pretty much ask you guys, but that was before the big news today, so that's why we didn't really focus on it. Hassan, I'm going to ask you the same thing. What team would you play on Sunday against Norwich, and who would you take at left back going forward?
Yeah, going forward, we know the players coming back. Robbo is coming back, and Shimikas is also coming back. So we have called back Oman back as well. So maybe we start with Robbo for 50-60 minutes, and Oman can come after that. And we need Gomez to be fit because Matip is out for maybe until the end of the season. So we'll need him at the center back position. I would like to see Bobby Clark starting because he's playing really well when he comes on. Maybe and the forward line we'll see Jota because he got the rest in the last game. So it will be it will not be the whole youthful side. It will be mix between youth and the players who are coming back from the injury.
Yeah, I think there's definitely quite a few youngsters that have won their place in the at least in the first 11 in the cup now. When you look at players like Connor Bradley, Kwanzaa, I think they're just going to be pretty much the first ones on the team sheet. William, I think it's only fair to ask you the same question. If Robertson comes back, he's fit for Chelsea and Arsenal for next week, would you play him ahead of Gomez, and why?
Yeah, I would actually as well. Because along with what Ray said, where if we're going to put our young side, obviously we do need a more experienced member kind of leading the side through. I think if anyone's going to be up for a game, no matter whether it's, you could tell them it's Norwich or 2011 Barcelona, I think Robbo's going to be up for the game anyway. So I think also in that aspect, he is probably the best one to have in there as well from our senior players. Get some run to him immediately as well. And I mean, just knowing Robertson himself as a player, the guy who's like, apart from this shoulder injury, he barely ever missed a game for us throughout the whole period of him being here. So I think he's probably even more excited than all of us to get back on the pitch, or at least to see him get back on the pitch. I do think I would give Gomez a good rest. I think Bradley's been in really good form as well. So until Trent doesn't fully come back, and just to give Joel some a bit of rest as well, I think start Bradley and Robertson on Sunday, and from there on out we can see, because unfortunately, even though I've been really impressed with Conor Bradley in this last month, I do feel like for this season, once Trent is back to fitness and Gomez is forced into playing a left back, we will kind of slowly see him be moved back a little into the squad. So I think also for Bradley, this is definitely a game to start him at as well. So yeah, I would start Robbo, maybe just sub him off after the if we're on a good result, if we're 2-0 up, 3-0 up, or whatever, hopefully because you never know. Then maybe start him off at the 50th minute, 50 or the 60th, and put Chambers on for a bit, get Chambers a bit of game time as well. No, Chambers just left, didn't he? Realize it now. It's Beck's one I meant. No, Chambers. And then I would give Beck a couple of minutes as well. Just really rest Joe Gomez for the game, and then go on to the next week.
Yep. One of the reasons why I asked you guys about Gomez was I remember in the summer when we were doing streams, I was on stream with Dan quite a few times, and we had this back and forth about Gomez. He was saying that Gomez is still a good player and he still provides depth and he's good enough to play for us. And I was saying, no, absolutely not. Get rid. He's not good enough. And now he's kind of humbled me in these past few weeks, months even. So that's why I started to think, maybe even if Robertson comes back, Gomez could still be, an option at left back, maybe even ahead of Robbo. So, yeah, I think that's all for this evening. I would like to thank everyone coming in and leaving your comments and liking, subscribing. That's obviously very much appreciated. Thank you very much for spending your Friday night with us, and we're hoping that come the next few days we'll learn to smile a bit more and just get through these next few weeks with a big smile on our faces. And yeah, that's it. Up the Reds, thanks so much, Willem, Hassan, and Race, for being here tonight as well. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Up the Reds.